So today we are going to record how to create an aquarium. The very first thing I want you to know is that I am doing this with our new library, mcse, which is updated to allow for additional entity names and block names, with the difference being that instead of entering our block type as block.dir.id, we are now just entering it as an all uppercase dirt that is a string. So that's the only difference you'll see in this today, is I'll have replaced every block.whatever.id with just the name of what we want to put there. And I will link to where you can find all of those names in the video comments. So what we want to do is create an aquarium. An aquarium will be a glass container filled with water, filled with a number of fish. And we'll choose those fish randomly from a list that is all of the entities that live in water in Minecraft. So the very first thing I want to do is define my aquarium function. So I'm just going to copy this over. Into my code, if I can find it. There we go. And so I have here, let me widen this out a little bit, an aquarium of a particular size. I've told it I want it to be 8 by 5 by 6 by default. The block type of the aquarium will be glass by default. The number of fish I spawn will be 1 fish by default. I'll have it be spawn in my position and facing going out from my direction. And then our aquarium is basically a hollow rectangular prism, only we're filling it with water. The reason we're not using a hollow rectangular prism, though, is I don't want my aquarium to have a top. I want the top to be, I want the water to go right up to the top and not have it have glass on the top. So I'm going to copy this, and then we're going to alter it as we need to. So my offset is the same. I'm just getting that to determine which direction it points in. The rectangular prism will be of size, block type. We don't actually need to pass data over, so I can get rid of that. Position, all of those are just defaults. So I'm just sending along the same defaults I had up here, with the exception that I want to make sure that I send along my offset that I calculated. Because remember, we don't want to calculate that 2 separate times, because if I move, if the glass pushes me out of the way, then the water won't spawn in the correct place. Now, my new position for where I want my water to go is going to be the same as before. It's just going to be 1 in each direction, keeping in mind that there will be an offset that's added to it to fix the direction. The one change here is that my new size, I only want it to be 1 block smaller. That's because I want the water to go all the way to the top and get rid of that glass that was up at top. And then I'm going to send over this rectangular prism. It'll be size, new size. Block type will be water. Oops, got an extra quotation mark in there. There we go. Data, I don't need any data. The position will be new position. Directions, the same direction that I got sent over. And the offset's the same offset. So that's all set. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my interpreter, and I'm just going to run my aquarium. There's nothing I think should be wrong with this, but it's better to not get too far ahead of ourselves when coding. So I'm going to go out here, and I'm going to import my file, mc.stuff2. The reason I have the 2 is because this is the updated version that imported with no problems. And I'm just going to run going to run mc.stuff aquarium with the defaults. And I forgot to put the 2 on. So it says name error, MC stuff is not defined. And so that's because I imported MC stuff 2. There we go. And it says MC stuff has no attribute aquarium. That's probably because I forgot to save it. These are all the things that are worth checking. Now I'm going to run it again and you'll see that it doesn't work. And that's because it already loaded my library. It's not reloading it. Luckily for me, I have a new library to import that's been very helpful. It's called importlib. So I need to import importlib, and this will allow us to reload a module, a library. So once I've saved, I can reload it. Remember, that's why we were actually running things out in the terminal before, but I prefer the Python editor or the Python interpreter. So I went looking, and you can reload so that you can do your debugging. And I again will post that in the classroom and the YouTube comments as well. So now I want to try running my aquarium again. And I have an aquarium. But I'm in the middle of the glass, so I gotta back up a little bit. Okay, so it is a glass rectangular prism filled with water. Now, I'm going to run that aquarium again, and we'll see that it spawned in the exact same space that it did before, even though I moved. And that is, if you'll recall, a problem with our interpreter caching some things. I don't really know why it's doing it, and I haven't had a chance to look it up. So I just need to pass over to it position equals my position, actually. Position equals mc stuff dot my position, and dir equals mc stuff 2. I need to remember to put the 2 on the other one. Dot my dir. And if you'll recall, that's what their defaults are, but for some reason it's not updating those when I run it a second time. And so in order to get it to update and not be confusing, I need to do this. And it does exactly what I expect. But there are no fish. And what good is an aquarium with no fish? But before we go to the fish, you'll note that this area is going to get spammed with a lot of aquariums. And I learned the hard way the other day that if I just start breaking glass, I just create a mess of water. So it's not as easy to clean up as some of the other stuff. And I'm too lazy to go find sponges. So I wrote a little cleanup thing that just calls a rectangular prism that is by default 10 by 10 by 10 of block type air that goes from my position and is centered around me. So I'm going to paste that over into my files that I want to use. And I'm going to come over here. First I'm going to save. Then I'm going to come over here and reload my library and run cleanup. And it'll work just fine the first time. If I put the file name in front of it. There. It'll work just fine the first time, but it has that same caching problem. That if I come over here and run it again, that one actually worked. It wasn't working for me earlier. So I run it again, and now I've got my mess cleaned up. Okay, so now I have an aquarium. I need to populate it with fish. But in order to populate it for fish, I need to actually get fish. I want to create a function that will return a random fish from the items that I have told it can have. And I'm saying fish, but it also includes dolphins and turtles and drowns. So if we come over here, I have this function getFish. We're going to copy it over, and then I'm going to explain it. So first of all, I have an array here. An array is just a list, and it's a list of items that we can call individually. So I'm going to save this so that we can go down here and I can show you a little bit about what an array is. So I'm going to reload MC stuff, and then I'm going to call MC stuff 2.getFish. It's going to return to me a pufferfish that is a baby. I'm going to call that again, but this time I'm going to assign it to a variable. So I'm saying fish equals mcstuff.getFish. And now if I type fish, I get cod and an empty spot because it's not a baby. And if I just want to get what my fish type is, then I would type fish 0 and I get cod. The reason it is 0 is because computer scientists count funny, and your first item in the array is actually item 0. So they start at 0 and then 1. So if I do fish 1, I'll get a blank for where that is. And if I run this fish equals again, and I want to know what I had, it's a cod again. But this time it's a baby cod. So don't worry about how this works right now. I'm just trying to show you how an array works. So if we go over here to get fish, we have a list, an array of items that are all the water types in Minecraft. You can tell me if I missed one. And then we have baby, and we just have baby or not baby. And we didn't write not baby because that's not what Minecraft wants. It just wants a blank, or what the library wants. And then here I'm using a random library. And so that random library is saying choose a random fish or a random item from the array fish. And it's saying choose a random item from the array baby. And that's how we're getting our random items down here. So if I just keep hitting get fish, let me find it. There we go. And I just do that over and over again. It should be a baby about half the time, but we know that randomness isn't as random as we think it should be. And we have a turtle, a drowned, a turtle, a squid, dolphin, salmon. So each time it picks a random fish and a random baby. And I'm just doing that by saying random.choice. This is a pre-written function for me. I just had to import the library random, and it will pick any item from my array for me. So that's our getFish function. The next thing we need to do is actually run it inside of our aquarium function. I'm going to copy this over. Oops. I'm going to paste this down in our aquarium. Actually, I'll just walk through it. So I'm going to say for I in range, and I want the range to be the number of fish I have. So in range fish. And actually, I'm going to change this to num fish because I don't want to confuse it with the fish I'm getting each time. So in range num fish, I want to, and actually I can set this up here, I want to set the place that I want the fish to spawn, and I'm going to have them all spawn in the same space. So fish position is going to be our new position because that's the one space I know has water in it, because it's where our water started, plus our offset to make it actually where our water started. And so for range, I'm going to get fish. So my fish is going to equal get fish. And then I'm going to spawn an entity. So mc.spawnEntity. You give it the location, which is fish position. And then you give it the entity name, which is going to be the first element in our array of fish. So that's 0. And then you tell it whether it's a baby or not. And that's going to be the number 1 element. So the second element here, because it returned fish and whether or not it's a baby. And we're going to run this and see if it works. So we need to reload MC stuff, and then we need to create our aquarium. Get over here where I can see. Do it in that direction. All those poor sea turtles. Make this a bit smaller so we can actually see what we're doing. And we'll hit enter. And I have an aquarium. And the aquarium has 1 fish thing in it. Although it looks like the fish thing is caught in the wall. It looks like maybe the squid was too big for it. I've tested this a bunch and that's the first time I've had that happen. Let me make sure I used what I did. Yep. Fish position equals new position plus offset. Sorry, squid. So that was an unfortunate end of life for the squid. And now, in order to test it well, I'd like to actually increase the number of fish I have. And I don't have to go up and change my code to that because that's a variable I can pass to it. So numFish equals 5. Oops. I landed in the aquarium. It looks like I need to think harder about where my things are spawning because they all fell out. Interestingly enough, when I tested it, it was fine. So I'm going to say that it's probably something to do with the direction I'm facing. But I thought that we had solved that with our offset. So let's try this again in this direction. And things worked better in this direction, but still not perfectly. One of them ended up in it, so let's try it in this direction and see what happens. See if we can do some troubleshooting here. Yeah. Everything's getting caught in the glass. So I'm going to go ahead and add one in. Let's see, where is this spawning that we don't want it to? So come over here. I want to look. My turtle looks like it's spawning. It's too big, I think. And it is spawning in the glass, but I don't think we need to move it up. We just need to move it into the center more. And with that, we're going to have to make some rules later on about how big our aquarium can be in order to work well. So let's make our fish position be the new position plus the offset plus vector 1, 0, 1. So I'll move it 1 towards the center, but not up at all. Let's hit save and come down here and reload it. Come over here and create it. And that looks like it did better. So it looks like we've got the right, well, we had the right number of things in there, but I think some of them got hungry. But that looks like it is a good plan. Although it looks like, look at that, the drowned are still maybe spawning too low. No, he's just trying to come out of a corner. So that looks like it was a good plan to adjust those. And that was just about how big the Minecraft objects were and getting them stuck in the glass and things, which is interesting because the first time I ran it, I didn't have that problem. I had another problem and I fixed it. I had forgotten to add the offset to my fish position, and that ended up being a problem. And I fixed that, but I didn't run into the problem then of having things spawn inside of the glass. One last thing is that I don't really like the look of the glass, so I'm going to make my block type be a barrier. Oops, didn't mean to hit save. Okay. I shouldn't have done that where I did before because we had some carnage again. Again, I think that's just some of the critters in there getting hungry. We could easily make a list that didn't include any carnivores in there, but it's interesting anyway. So if I go over here and create a new aquarium that's made out of the barrier, that time I didn't get carnage because I didn't get a lot of drowns, and maybe squids. I don't know what's carnivorous. Oh, there I got a drowned. He's sitting on top somehow. But anyway, that is how to create an aquarium. We used the random functions. We learned about arrays. We learned about the new spawnEntity that allows us to pick things and choose babies. And I think you could go do a fair number of really clever things with what you've learned here. Not just aquariums or zoos or things like that, but you can spawn entities and have them follow you around. You can use the randomness to create flowers where you walk based on your position and various things like that. So I think you can have a lot of fun with that. Go explore.